Well, I've been in and out of the shop today. I've just got started uh, cutting up some plywood for the season's build, and I had a little issue with the tractor. And I'll turn the camera around, I'll show you. Now, these little tires are a very heavy duty tire. They're kind of a mini skid steer tire. They're not the OEM tires. The OEM tires on these tractors are not very good. They're very light duty, and carrying loads with the forks like I do, I was going through a set of tires every season. So I found these BKT mini skid steer tires, and they're fantastic. Um, Most tires they'll leak, right? That's what happens. And the trouble with these is they've got such a stout sidewall on them that I don't see it when it's leaked down. And so this one leaked down, and I was carrying a load across the yard, and I realized that it had pushed it right off the bead on the outside here. And I didn't film what I did, but there's a lot of people know this trick, but I think some people probably don't. You can't just put air in tubeless tire and expect the bead to seat, because the inside of the tire has to be pushed out against the rim. So get yourself a ratchet strap, and this one actually took a bit of force because the tire is so robust. But you pull that ratchet strap tight around the center of the tire, and that'll push the beads out against the rim enough to get some pressure in the tire. And that's exactly what I did. I got some pressure in there, and it seated up just fine. And now I can take the strap off and air it up as you would. A nice thing about the loader is I don't need a jack. Just push the front end up on the air with the front end loader. When I have the backhoe on, the same is true for the rear wheels. Just lift the stabilizers, put the stabilizers down, and push it up in the air. Oh well. So there we go. Little tip for the day. I'll detail this for you tomorrow. Give you some action shots perhaps. But what I've been doing here, I just started. I cut about 5 sheets. I'll bring 5 or 6 sheets, about all I can lift of the tractor, and I'll put a pallet right up here. And you can see how long I've had this in here. There's still snow, it hasn't melted. And then that gives me the plywood up at this level. I can just slide it down and then push it through the table saw. Now, it's really nice to have somebody on that side to pull the pieces and then put them in a stack on a skid. Well, I don't have that. So what I've been doing is I've got a couple of little pallets here, and I'll put offcuts on one and, good pieces or whatever you want to call it on the other. Generally, I need to cut those again. So then when I'm done cutting the plywood I've got on the skid, then I'll pick these up, run them through the saw, and then on that side I have a pallet, 2 pallets with the finished pieces. I've just moved these in here for the day. I've got covers on this one. I've got pallet pieces there, and I've just moved in for the day because I'm shutting down. I actually got some work to do outside. I'll work out there for a while, and then I'm going in the house. It's pretty windy. It's not that warm, so it's not very pleasant outside, but I'll do that work outside, and then tomorrow I can bring some more plywood in here and keep going. Thanks for watching. Continuing the saga from last week's video, I got my tire repair kit. I'm going to try to use it to fix this hole in my tire. Take the nail out. If you find a nail in your tire and your tire's not leaking, leave the nail alone. The little valve, the little core in there, that's called a Schrader valve. If you're ever looking for one of those, you're asking for one, you can know. Sometimes they just call it a valve core, but the assembly, core is the core, but the assembly is the Schrader valve, just so you know. Okay. Don't torque it too tight, but make sure she's nice and snug in there. Okay, now I bought myself this little kit. It seems like a nice little kit. The tools are metal, aluminum handles, etc. This is a little rasp, so you need to make that hole a little bit bigger, to be honest. So we'll start with that. Might have to use my drill it out. And if you see where I'm going wrong, you tell me, because I'm not an expert. But it's also not the first time I've done this. Get that in there. Just work it. You try to kind of make the hole big enough for the plug and kind of rough up the sides of it. It doesn't seem to be very sharp, so hopefully it'll do the job. I've got some glue here. Didn't come with a kit, but it's the kind of glue that vulcanizes the rubber. Makes things work that much better. These are the plugs. It only comes with 5 plugs, but you can buy these by the dozens. They're pretty cheap. Oh boy. Oh, there's 10. There's 2 by 5. Okay, they're kind of sticky, soft and sticky. Get one of these started. And then the other tool has like a big needle. It's an eye. There's another one here. I don't know what the difference is. I guess maybe if you break it, you've got a replacement. So you take the plug, kind of get it in there. It's almost like clay, but it's not. Alright, like that. And now I'm going to squirt some glue in there. Let's see if I can get the plug in it. Part of my problem is I'm not wearing my glasses. Okay, so we go all the way in. I'm gonna pull it out. It's gonna come out of the tool. It may have come out too early. I shouldn't have gone all the way through. So I think I'll have to put another one in there. It'll just be floating around inside that tire. Some of them, this one has the end is split. Some of them are more of a hook And with those, I would go all the way through and pull it back. But this one, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to just go partway in there. Like that. Leave the end sticking out. And then when I pull it back, it comes out of the tool. I've seen people set that on fire. I don't know if that's what you should do or not. I'm just going to cut it off. And I'm going to wait before I pressure that tire so that that can all vulcanize and set. And this doesn't matter. This is going to run on the highway and it won't matter at all. Even if you don't cut that off, it doesn't matter. You know, I've often said that if I had a market for dead batteries and flat tires, I'd be a wealthy man. Because I sure have enough of them. Just my lot in life, I guess. Thanks for watching. A next day update on the trailer tire. I've inflated it to 80 pounds, which is max inflation pressure. And I'll let it sit for a few days. See how it does. Hopefully it doesn't lose any pressure, and that'll be a success. Well, we got some snow overnight. I don't know how much. It always blows around. It's hard to tell, but there's a few inches out there. Maybe got 6 inches on average. So a little bit cold today, -14 I think it was. And I had to go out there and clear a little bit of snow. It wasn't a terrible cold for me out on the tractor, but you know, open station tractor is what it is. Fortunately, you know, it was a little windy, which makes it cold, but it does make it easier to blow snow because the snow always goes in one direction. If it's not windy at all, the snow really kind of just, you know, follows its own path almost and ends up blowing on me, and then I get wet and then I get cold. So it worked okay that way. Now you can see that I brought in 5 more sheets of plywood, and that's all I can lift. I have to lift it really high because I have to get it over my radial arm saw is sticking out over here. So this is what I've been doing. I just pull the sheets down onto the table and cut them. Now I'm kind of having to do it in a bit of an inefficient way just because I don't want to be lifting heavy sheets too much. Not as young as I used to be. These are heavy too. These are probably 100 pounds. 3/4 inch spruce plywood is what it is. So what I do is I'll cut, this is the length of a pallet. And so I'll cut off the end, and then I'll cut again. And that'll give me enough for 4 pallets. And I'll set those right here on this little skid on the floor. And then when I'm done all of this, I'll have 10 of those pieces. So then I'll just set this at 24 inches and I'll just rip those in 2. I've got a little pallet over there. Once I rip them in 2, they go into that little pallet. And then the end of the sheet will go on another pallet here. So I'll have 5 of those, and then I can rip those up into rough width. You know, I'm not getting too specific here for the covers. So the rough width for the covers, I can actually cross cut it to final length as an assembly, and then I'll cut it to width for the covers. And again, I've got a little pallet over there for those. And every time I finish a batch, then I'll return to my computer, I'll update my numbers, I'll update the numbers of parts that I need, and I'll run my little cut list optimizer. You can find cutlistoptimizer.com online, and there is a free version. It just gives you a limited number of calculations per day, I think 5. And quite often in the build season, I'll subscribe so that I can do all the calculations I want. That really helps me stay organized and not make any cuts that are going to waste material, because material is expensive. These are, I think I paid 51 or something each for these, which isn't the lowest price I've paid, but it's certainly not the highest. It was fairly reasonable. This is utility. It's not CD. It's I don't know what you call it. It's better than that garbage plywood I bought. It's nicely laminated. It's got a waterproof bond, so it can put up with outdoor living quite well. One side is a little nicer than the other. It's Canadian lumber, which is nice, and it's fresh. It's dated here. I see that this one says November 18th, 25, but there was sheets I was pulling off before that were January 28th, 26. So, hope the glue is dry. That's all I can say. So, this is what I got to do, and I'm stalling because this is even doing it this way. This is not easy, and I'll just get at it here. All right, so like I say, 33.5. So I'll cut that a couple times.
Manitoba, where the wildflowers sway, faith apiaries works its magic in the light of day. Golden nectar rising, kissed by the prairie sun, a taste so pure it's like heaven on the tongue. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. Bees dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through. Through the frost and the thaw, through the wind and the rain, faith keeps the hives humming, never bending to the pain. A legacy of patience, a harvest of delight. Every drop a story, every jar shining bright. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. Bees dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. Bees dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through
That's 5
and
sheets.
through.
That's the second batch of 5 sheets. And I think that's almost half. I believe there's 21 sheets cut total. So I need to take this pallet back out and bring in some more plywood. I'm going to try to fix the pallet first though. The board's falling off. I'll just drill a hole and screw it back on there. These offcuts, sometimes I'll take the time and stitch these back together. Works pretty good, but honestly I've got plenty of that. So I have a beekeeper friend whose son is kind of taking an interest in woodworking. He's got a few tools at home, and I said, if you want this lumber to cut up and make things out of, you know, make birdhouses and whatnot, so he could have it. So he said he'd take it. So I'll give it to him. Okay, I got to do that whole thing 2 more times. So I think I have 1 more stack of 5 to bring in, and then I think maybe 1 sheet to finish off. I just can't get 6 up that high. You can see I really got to lift it and thread the needle to get that in here, but it works. So here we go again. So I've got the plywood processing system cleared away, and look at the empty space I have. It's quite amazing. This hardly ever happens. But I'm going to shift gears. My task today as far as the build goes is to get the radial arm saw tuned up and start cutting the risers out of 2x4s. I think I have to cut 49 2x4s. I think I bought 50, which I realized after that I need actually a few more, but we'll get a few more later. But what I've got here is I've got some box parts for 2 boxes, and these will be put together. They're not going to be dipped because they'll ultimately be painted. Our association invested in some posters that they're the size of a deep frame. So I'll be building 20 frames for this project as well. And so they'll snap those into the deep frames, put them in the boxes, and these boxes will serve as an educational tool for the members to to see not only healthy brood but diseased brood. The focus really is on identifying diseased brood, and when this was presented to me, I suggested that we buy both sets, because I'm a firm believer that if you are intimately familiar with what normal is in anything in life, if you know what normal looks like, then you will know what something that's not normal looks like. You'll recognize that it's not normal, even if you don't recognize what it is. You'll see that it's not normal. So after you see that that's not normal, then you can go down the road of diagnosing exactly what it is you are seeing. But knowing very well what normal is, I think, is the first step and the most important step to that. So you will hardly ever see me doing this, because building boxes is my very least favorite job in the wood shop. I really, really hate building boxes, but this is what's going on here today. I only have to build 2, so that's what I'm telling myself to be able to get by. I've actually found the workbench, so we're going to move over to the workbench here to make this happen. My favorite waterproof glue, Titebond 3. My favorite glue brush. Actually, it's not my favorite. I've got a nice silicone one, but I forgot to wash it, and I think I ruined it. So these little acid brushes are pretty awesome. But you do need to cut them off. Cut them off about a 1/2 inch long. That's maybe a bit short, but I think it'll work. I don't really have a great nail for these. So what I'm using is just the biggest staple I have, which is I think it's a 1/2 inch crown, and it's 1.5 inches long. 1.5 inches sounds pretty long, but it's not, because this is 7/8 material. So that allows only, 5/8 penetration. It's not very long, but I don't think I have anything longer than 1.5 inches for this. So it is what it is. Fortunately, the glue does the heavy lifting. However, I just realized something I can do, because this is limited production. I can actually screw this together. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll put this away. And so then the next question is, how long is the screw? I'm thinking 2.5. I like to go at least twice as long as the material I'm screwing through first. So if this was 1 inch, that would be 2. I can go a little better. I'll do 2.5. Okay. You can get a visual on that. So that'll be pretty good, I think. And obviously, when I do this, I have to pre-drill Fortunately, I've got my drill and my screw gun right here, and I'll just get right into this. I like to start by just dry fitting the first couple of pieces. Boy, these are weird. And that's really only to hold them up. Now make sure you have to make sure you put the handles to the top, and you'll get reminded, because if you try to do that, you know, the other way, the joint doesn't fit properly. But you can put it inside out very easily. Ask me how I know that. I don't think I've completed a box assembly inside out, but I've certainly almost done that. Okay, so for this, I'll get my glue. Like I say, the glue does the heavy lifting. You know, screws and nails and stuff are just there to clamp the glue. And we can do the face and the shoulder of the joint. We're going to do this face too, because that's going to match to the shoulder of the adjoining adjoining piece. Yeah, my brush is too short. Oh well. Good thing they're 50 cents each. It's one of those things I think that's pretty amazing. Like, what do you get for 50 cents these days? Not much that's useful at all. Don't use your hand for a hammer, like I just did. Got a nice mallet here for that. Now we'll pull this together laterally. Literally laterally. Make sure the clamp isn't on the joint. Those fingers can stick out. I'm going to put some of these in. This one needs to go in there. It's kind of bending. I could put a piece of wood in here and clamp that. You know, I can, I can try it this way. The joint isn't, the finger isn't sticking out, so I'll try it. Okay, I think that worked okay. Okay, let's put a couple screws in this. I'm gonna blow the budget on screws just because it's only 2 boxes and it'll be really nice for the purpose. have to angle that one because the frame rest is here. So I want to go over into some thicker material. Rinse and repeat. There you go. There's the box. A little bit overkill. Actually, I've got a course of screws here to do yet. All right, now I'm done, I think. And the other one will go together in like manner. So I won't bore you with that. Thanks for watching. Okay, on to building the frames. I'll show you what I'm using for staples. For the bottom bars, I have a narrow crown staple. So that's a 1/4 inch wide crown by 1.25 inches. For the top bars, I have a medium crown staple, which is 3/8. And I learned that not all medium crown staples are the same width. My Makita drives 1/2 inch medium crown. And I hear people say this term online, and I believe they're kind of missing the point of the terminology. I'll finish that that's 1.5 inches long for the top bars. People seem to say the name like it's a crown staple. It's a staple. A staple is a staple. A staple differentiates from a nail in the fact that it's got 2 legs separated by a top or a crown. The width of the crown will denote whether it's a narrow crown or a medium crown. They're all staples. It's not a crown staple. It's a medium staple, or it's a medium crown or a narrow crown or a full crown. I don't have a full crown. I don't really know what the correct term there is, but it's a wide crown maybe. So, when I hear someone say that it's a narrow crown staple, I don't think they're understanding what they're dealing with. It's a narrow crown staple. It's a staple with a narrow crown. It's not a narrow crown staple. It's not a crown staple. It's a staple. It has a narrow crown. All right. So there's your tip for terminology for the day. And really, it doesn't matter. You're right. It doesn't matter. but I think it does speak to understanding what you're dealing with here. So that's the bag of little brushes that I buy at the store. There's 12 in there, and I think it cost me $2.50. I usually start these with the top bars or with the end bars, and I'll count 20 of these out. I use my little clamp here. My workspace isn't very big, so I'll just push them against the jig to line them up nice, and I'll clamp them all together. So now what I've got is I've got a nice trough here for applying glue. And then what I can do is just dump some glue in that. And move it back down into the dish. I don't think this saves me time over gluing them one at a time. I don't like gluing them one at a time. It's just my temperament. I don't care for that process. I'd far rather do this. So I can't guarantee you that if you follow suit, we're going to save you time. It's a how I do. It's not how you're supposed to do it. It's just how I do it. I've built many thousands and thousands of frames over the last 10 years. And I don't know everything, and I don't do everything the best way, but there's certain things I've sort of developed my own process that I like. Okay. The worst part about doing it this way is now I've got the glued surface upside down, and that top of that bar can drip on the work surface. Okay, into the jig. And top bars. No, bottom bars. Use a hammer. I have a tack hammer that I like using for this job, but I can't see it right now. Do be careful, forcing that in there. You can split that end bar pretty easily, but if I split it, I can glue that back together. And honestly, after I glue it and clamp it and the glue sets, that will be stronger than the wood was to begin with. Sometimes, especially when your parts sit for a long time, sometimes the parts dry at a different rate and they don't go together quite perfectly. I can just shave a tiny bit off of there with my utility knife because I don't want to crack it. That goes in there nice now. Yeah, wood being what it is, it's always going to shrink and expand. And right now, it's shrunken as much as it's going to probably because it's winter and the air is drier in the winter. So the wood, much like honey itself, the wood gives up moisture. I like to make sure the joint is closed up nicely. Flip the jig sideways, not this way. Go this way, the frames will tend to fall out of it. Okay, and you know, after a while, this glue will start to not be. I didn't put very much on this one. I didn't want it dripping, but you know, I can add a little bit if it looks dry, which in this case it does look a bit dry. The end grain, which is this bottom part of this joint, will absorb a lot of glue, so it wasn't that it dripped off or anything, just the end grain has sucked it up. The end grain is not a good glue joint to begin with, and to be the best it can be, it needs a lot of glue. Okay. These will get no foundation because of the purpose. They're going to put those pictures in them. Boy, these end bars have shrunk up quite a bit. There we go, 10 assembled frames. Now, a lot of people will insist on driving a nail or a staple under the ear sideways into the top bar, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think it's really necessary, because I think that tradition really predated the use of a good waterproof glue. That glue is very high quality, and I don't think that staple is really necessary. Certainly for this use, it's not necessary because it's just holding a plastic poster. Just get the glue off from under the ears. Now, I want to point out my caddy here. This is something I threw together one day. I was tired of my frame parts just scattered everywhere. Plus the fact that if I've got my frame parts out and I want to move to a different location, these days I kind of have this station set up here all the time, but I didn't always. So I made this little caddy out of, I don't know what it is, 1/2-inch plywood. And do I ever love it. It's one of my favorite things, and it is so rough built that there was no planning, there's no joinery, it's all butt joints and whatnot, but it's just a really handy tool to keep the parts in there, make it mobile. I can pick it up and move it if I need to, put it somewhere else in the shop. So that's a really nice little item to have. So that's frames, and again, I need to do one more batch of those, and I won't bore you with that. Okay, on with the real work for today. I've got my stack of 2x4s in the building now, which is nice. I quite often have to do this part with the door open, and I might have to do work with the door open tomorrow, because after this job, I've got 16-foot 1x8s to cut up, and this 2x4 is 8, and it's barely inside the door. So the only option I actually do have an option, because this area is clear. So what I can do is I can bring my Radial Arm Saw cabinet system, which is on wheels. I can roll it out here, bring it up in front of the workbench, and possibly get 16-foot material in here to cut up. So for now, I've got my stop here set to, I got it set to 21 3/4. I'm making some of these a little bit longer, just an eighth longer. And I've just got to cut them up. I think I get 4 pieces per, and then deck them up on my little pallet here. When I'm all done, then I can take those with the tractor to the other building. Without further ado, let's start making some sawdust.
In the heart of Manitoba, where the wildflowers sway, Faith Apiaries works its magic in the light of day. Golden nectar rising, kissed by the prairie sun, a taste so pure, it's like heaven on the tongue. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. These dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. These dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through. Through the frost and the thaw, through the wind and the rain, faith keeps the hives humming, never bending to the pain. A legacy of patience, a harvest of delight. Every drop a story, every jar shining bright. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. Bees dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through. Oh, golden.
Okay, that's a bit of work. So I cut up 49 2x4s. There's one left here because I bought 50, and I've got a bin full of these offcuts, which, how long is that? I can make something out of these. So that is not quite 8.5. That will make mini, not mini, but medium end bars. That'll make medium end bars. The problem with that is I'd like to plane that to 1 3/8 or 1 1/4, depending on what I'm making. And that's too short to go through my planer. So that's a resaw and not a plane. And resawing 3.5 inch is, you can do it. It's just a lot nicer to plane it. So here's the skid. Look at that. I wrapped it and everything. There is 196 risers there for the pallets, and I needed 195, and I had just that many 2x4s, so I cut an extra one, which is always good to have spares. You'll lose one or mess one up somehow. All right, I'm almost pooped for the day, but I think what I might do is pull this big saw out of here, put it over by the workbench, and then I can get 16-foot lumber in here. I'm gonna have to measure what's 16 feet from the door. The building's 30 feet long, so this section of it is 24, so it's still got lots of space that way. I sure would like to have dust collector on this thing. It just makes so much sawdust, and the wall is all covered. And get some cobwebs, and then the sawdust sticks to the cobwebs. But I've got some dust collection pipe up there, but I never did finish it, so it's not usable. Anyway, I'm rambling now. And so I'll bring you back when there's more going on. I've got my 1x8s outside. I'll sweep the snow off and bring them in when I decide what I'm going to do with this saw. Thanks for watching. Okay, I can't quite do what I wanted to do. Mostly because I don't want to hand bomb those 16 footers. You can't see them, it's too bright there. But I've got them on the tractor. Take you over there. I'll set up here on my stack of risers, just as a way to support these 16s. A little tractor. That's 30 of these 16s. That's pretty incredible. That's really all we do. Can't really compare to that. So that's okay. Drag them up over onto the saw. Cut them up. I have to do 15 of these for my first round, and then we'll regroup and do a few more.
In the heart of Manitoba, where the wildflowers sway, Faith Apiary works its magic in the light of day. Golden liquid rising, kissed by the prairie sun, a taste so pure, it's like heaven on the tongue. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. Please dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. Please dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through. Through the frost and the thaw, through the wind and the rain, faith keeps the hives humming, never bending to the pain. A legacy of patience, a harvest of delight. Every drop a story, every jar shining bright. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. Please dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through. Oh, golden fields of faith, your sweetness never fades. Please dance on the blossoms in the whispering shade. From hive to jar, a labor of love so true. Manitoba's finest honey, golden through and through.
This is always a bit of an expensive day, heating wise, but I don't really see much of an alternative. And sometimes I can schedule my work so that when the day I have to leave that open, it's not as cold. And today fits that bill. It's not as cold outside. I think it's going to get a little warmer yet though. So I've got these cut, and I've got my offcuts here. Those will make other parts. And I've got, getting congested in here. So these will make 2 runners. So these, that was a struggle. These are covered in ice. They're hard to handle. They're very cold in the hands, and I can't really wear gloves. It's not a good idea to wear gloves using power tools anyway. So hands got pretty cold, and things are sliding around. Things didn't line up with the fence very well because there's ice, but that's just me complaining. I'm gonna get a little pallet. I will put these on a little pallet, and we'll let them thaw out in here so that the ice is gone, and they'll sit in on the pallet a lot nicer. So that's the next job. I can officially say I'm bushed. I've been working at this yesterday and all day today, and I've gotten along really well, as you can see. Look at that stack of parts. But I have a problem. I ran out of lumber. I guess I miscalculated on my purchase, and I ran out at just the worst time. Not the worst time, clock time, but the worst time in the process. Because as you can see here, I have the top cleats and end cleats for the covers, and all of the cleats need to be milled on the table saw. So the problem is, if I had done this in a different order and maybe not cut all of the runners, I could cut up runners and make cleats out of them, but that would be kind of a waste of lumber. Then I could continue with my work tomorrow and mill up this lumber, but I don't want to reset the saws over and over again, so I'm not sure what to do. I guess there are some other pieces here, but those are center shims, and they also need milling, so I don't want to just cut those. And usually if you start recutting parts, then there's a lot of waste. So I don't know, maybe I'll be going to town tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe I should just plan to do that. Boy, I didn't want to go anywhere today. A lot of the highways around here were closed. High winds and blowing snow. And I went out to the post office and took a little piece of video out there while I was in the truck. So you can see how bad it was. The wind comes right across that big lake and picks up a lot of snow coming across there. It kind of seems like the wind is dying down now, which is nice. It wasn't supposed to last more than just today. And it was sunny all day. It was super windy, blowing snow and sunny. So kind of weird. But enough about the weather. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go to town and get more lumber, and then the next thing in the shop is to set up the saw with the dado blade and start milling parts, and that'll take me a while. So I got some stuff on next week, so that'll take me, another week before I'm done all that, I'm sure. All right, I really appreciate you watching, and leave me some comments. I really love reading the comments. So if you don't mind, just say hi, you're out there, kind of thing. I see the numbers, but it brings it to life when you actually get people writing comments on the videos. I so much appreciate that. So we'll wrap this up and package it, and then you can watch it tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching. Take care and have fun.